All right, let's talk about cardio. You know, that thing you do where you feel like you're spinning your wheels, sometimes literally, without actually seeing the fat loss results you're working so hard for. Well, if that's you, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to cut through all the noise and get right to the surprising truth about how to make cardio actually work.
So here's the big question, right? The one that's at the center of pretty much every fitness plan out there. To get really, really lean, do you just have to suffer through more and more hours of cardio? I mean, it makes sense on the surface. Burn more calories, lose more fat. But the science tells a very, very different story.
Just look at this number. Half a pound. That's it. A huge review of scientific studies found that this is the average amount of fat people lost after 8 weeks of adding cardio to their routine without changing their diet. All that time, all that sweat, for half a pound? So what on earth is going on here?
Well, the answer comes down to something called the constrained energy model. And here's the deal. You have to think of your body as this incredibly smart survival machine. It's been evolving for millions of years to keep you alive. So when you suddenly start burning a ton of extra calories, your body doesn't just go, oh, okay, it fights back. It starts trying to conserve energy everywhere else it can.
And it does this in two really sneaky ways. First, your non-exercise activity. All the little stuff like fidgeting, walking around the house, it just drops. You know, as Dr. Mike Rentals says, you find yourself asking your kid to grab the remote from across the room because your body is basically whispering, hey, let's just stay still. We're in survival mode. And second, you probably find yourself subconsciously eating a little bit more to make up for the calories you burned. These two things together can almost completely wipe out the deficit you thought you were creating with all that cardio. So, if just piling on more cardio isn't the magic bullet, what is? Well, we need a smarter way to think about this. We need a better framework, a better mental model for how fat loss actually works. And here it is. I want you to think of this as the fat loss trinity. It's a pyramid, a hierarchy of what actually matters. At the very bottom, the foundation of everything, is a calorie deficit that you create with your diet. It is so much easier to not eat 500 calories than it is to burn them on a treadmill. Next up, number 2 is resistance training. Lifting weights is the signal that tells your body, hey, keep the muscle, burn the fat. And then way up at the top, the final piece is cardio. See, it's not the star of the show. It's a supplemental tool you use to speed up the process.
Okay, so now that we know where cardio fits in the grand scheme of things, how do we use it intelligently? This is where we get into the nitty-gritty, the practical rules for getting the most burn with the least amount of, well, burnout.
The most important idea you need to get is the stimulus to fatigue ratio, or SFR. You want cardio with a high SFR. That means it burns a ton of calories, that's the stimulus, without totally wrecking your body with fatigue, soreness, or joint pain. Because remember, resistance training is more important in our trinity, and you can't have your cardio sessions messing up your ability to lift heavy.
Which brings us to a huge point. As Dr. Mike says, if you have cardio that you absolutely hate, it's just like planning to fail. It's so true. The absolute best form of cardio on paper doesn't matter one bit if you can't stand doing it. The best cardio for you is the one you can actually do, week in and week out, without it becoming this massive source of stress. Consistency is everything.
And you gotta know your limits. For most people, once you start pushing past about 45 to 60 minutes of cardio, maybe 6 days a week, you're hitting a point of diminishing returns. The fatigue just gets to be too much, it can start interfering with your muscle, and honestly, it's just not sustainable. Remember, cardio is the accelerator, not the engine. Your diet is the engine.
And finally, let's talk about the cardio you're not even thinking about. That's where this number comes in. Setting a daily step goal, 10,000 is a fantastic target, is your secret weapon. It's how you fight back against your body trying to get lazy. It keeps your baseline activity high and ensures you're getting a consistent, low-level calorie burn every single day.
All right, so you're ready to go? You walk into the gym, ready to do some smart cardio, and you're faced with a sea of machines. The treadmill, the bike, the elliptical, which one do you pick? Well, turns out there's a pretty clear hierarchy.
So according to Coach Greg Doucette, it all boils down to one simple principle. The more of your body you're using, the more calories you're gonna burn. It's that simple. That's why the elliptical often wins. You're using your arms and your legs. The incline treadmill or a stepper, also great, because you're fighting gravity, lifting your entire body weight with every step. And the stationary bike? Well, you're sitting down, using just your legs, so it's usually the least effective option for just burning calories.
And speaking of the treadmill, if you take away one single tip from this, let it be this one. Do not just walk on a flat surface. Always, and I mean always, add incline. The difference it makes is just, well, it's staggering. Just look at this. Walking at a pretty standard 3 miles per hour on a flat treadmill for an hour burns around 300 calories. Okay, fine. But now, keep that exact same speed, but crank the incline all the way up to 15%. Boom, you've just doubled your calorie burn to 600. You're getting twice the results for the same amount of time just by making your body carry its own weight up a hill. It is the ultimate cardio hack.
So, you did it. You followed the Trinity, you used smart cardio, you hit your goal weight, amazing. But the work isn't over. In fact, right here is where most people make their biggest mistake.
As Dr. Eric Helms points out, the single biggest mistake people make after a diet is they just stop everything. They stop the cardio, they stop the activity, but that period after the diet is when cardio might be the most important. Keeping that activity level up helps regulate your hunger and prevents that rapid weight regain that so many of us have experienced.
And that really brings us to the final, most important idea here. Cardio isn't just a temporary tool to get you lean for summer. It's a lifelong habit for staying healthy and maintaining your results. A formal diet is temporary. It has a finish line. The real question you should be asking yourself is this: will you make activity a permanent part of who you are?